Welcome back to Age of Empires 2. Last time we finished off showing all the different types of standard games, and I talked a bit about the history of the wonders in this game. Now, finally, we are ready to start on the main campaign. So we'll select Age of Kings campaigns here, and we'll go to the campaign screen. Now, we've already completed the William Wallace learning campaign, so I'm going to do the rest of the campaigns in order. Which is actually going to be kind of weird for me because one of the ones that, well, the two campaigns that I know the most is the one that we will be doing now, and this one, which we won't be doing until quite a bit later, seeing as it's number 4. Those are the two I'm most familiar with. The weird thing is, I'm actually a lot more familiar with the Conqueror's campaigns than the Age of Kings campaigns, because the Conqueror's campaigns were actually the first ones I tried as a kid. Yeah, I didn't actually start playing the Age of Kings campaigns until much more recently, when I actually rediscovered this game. So I'm actually a little unfamiliar with some of these. But the first one, well, we're going to go with the one that's number 2 here. Jeanne d'Arc. Yes. You probably all know the story. I'll just read out the, okay, I won't read out the sort of text here for all the campaigns, because the text for a few of the others are actually huge spoilers, particularly the Barbarossa one. So, like, the Barbarossa one pretty much spoils everything that happens in the whole campaign, so, yeah, don't exactly want to read that one out, but this one is probably fine. It is a war that has lasted 100 years, and the French have lost nearly every battle. Soon the English and their allies in Burgundy will conquer all of France. The heir to the French monarchy is too cowardly to ascend the throne. The French army is wounded and tired and has given up all hope. But in the darkest hour, a young peasant girl declares that she intends to save France. And with that, we head to the campaign map, and we only have one scenario available here. Yeah, unlike the tutorial campaign, in the real campaigns, you have to complete each scenario before you can move on to the next one. So, we'll be starting with the first one, an unlikely Messiah. But first I'll just show, there are difficulty settings here. Now, weirdly enough, in the original version of this game, you actually had a whole lot of different difficulty settings, but the Conquerors changed them to standard, moderate, and hard, and it seems the HD edition has standardized that over all of the campaigns in this game, so we only have standard, moderate, or hard difficulty. I am going to be playing on standard. I mostly just want to show these scenarios for the purposes of, well, you know, just showing them, really. I'm not really too keen on getting a challenge, really. But if there are any significant differences on the higher difficulties, I might play each one on hard and just check the map quickly on, like, Marco Polo, just to see if there are any major differences in enemy forces that I can talk about. But anyway, we have the first scenario. Now, actually, a few nights ago, just in preparation for this, I actually have a book on Jeanne d'Arc, and I basically spent an entire night reading the entire book, just to prepare myself for this. So, ask me any question about her, and I probably will be able to answer it at this point. But the first thing, well, actually, I guess, just quickly before we launch in, I'm kind of sorry to delay this, but I just want to mention some brief historical context. So basically, this is the 100 Years' War, which is a bit of a misnomer because it actually went on for a little bit longer than 100 years, but it's basically the 100 years, give or take a few, war. But basically, it all started when there was a bit of a succession crisis in France, and one of the English kings realised that he actually had very tenuous, but still there, slight blood ties to the French royal family. And because of that, he claimed that he deserved to rule France as well. And of course, the French people didn't exactly like that. A lot of battles ensued, and in quite a while, the English were owning very large chunks of France, basically. Like, there was very little of France that actually belonged to the French people. Like, there was just pretty much English bits all over the place. And they weren't too happy about that. The wars went on for quite a while, and things really intensified when the, at the time, King of France, kind of went insane. This was a very, very big problem, because it left a huge power vacuum since, while technically he was still king, he really wasn't in a fit mental condition to actually rule. his wife basically had to take over pretty much all the decisions. And because of that, a whole bunch of power-hungry nobles desperately tried to get on his wife's good side. One of them was the Duke of Burgundy, who, we'll be seeing about Burgundy later, but it's actually kind of interesting what happened with them. Basically, the Duke of Burgundy was the one who looked like they were getting closest to getting on her side, and then then one of the other nobles, who was, Burgundy was for the English, basically. Then one of the other nobles, who was heavily against the English, arranged a meeting, quote-unquote, with the Duke of Burgundy, whereupon he was promptly assassinated. After that, things just kind of spiraled out of control, and we pretty much have the situation as we have it at the beginning of this scenario. So, take it away, and I'll just give one more warning. So, we were used to ridiculous Scottish accents before. Be prepared to hear some pretty ridiculous French accents. You have been warned.
February 19, Army Camp near Vaucouleurs. This morning, I awoke to visions of fire and steel. These nightmares come more often now that I have seen my beloved France eaten away in years of war. I wandered through camp, ignoring the new snowfall, but observing the wounds and weariness of every soldier under my command, observing the desperation in their eyes. It was then that I first saw the girl. She told us that her name was Jeanne. She told us she was but a peasant who did not know how to ride or fight. She told us that she intended to rescue France. The darkness lifted from the men's souls. Her voice rang with conviction, and we drank in her every word. I may have lost my faith, but Jeanne has not lost hers, and that is enough for me. Jeanne has asked our ragged band of soldiers to take her to Chinon, where the rightful ruler of France, the Dauphin, hides from his foes. The war-torn land between is infested with enemy marauders, and we will lose many men. Death is by now an old companion, but for Jeanne, we will face it again.
Man, I really love that final line. Seriously. Anyway, so we will get into the mission proper. And we've got our objectives here. Escort Jeanne from the camp at Vaucouleurs to the Chateau of Chinon. Now, okay, just a warning. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am terrible at pronouncing French words. Fortunately, we have actual voice acting to tell us how to pronounce these, because if not, I would honestly have no idea how to pronounce them. And Jeanne must survive. Yep, remember when I was saying that we'd be seeing a lot of, and would be really annoyed by, these hero must survive missions later on? Yep, this is the first one. And the Jeanne d'Arc campaign in general is pretty bad in this regard. Pretty much the entire campaign is one giant escort mission. Joy! Now we can check the hints tab. Now, the thing I like about the hints tab is very rarely are the hints actually spoilers that much. Usually they just give you vague clues as to what to do, and most of the time I think it's fine to look at them, because usually in a lot of games like this that have a hint system, the hints are often gigantic spoilers for things that are blatantly going to happen later in the scenario. This one doesn't actually spoil much, and that's the thing for most of them. The thing that annoys me a little bit about the Forgotten campaigns in that new expansion is a lot of the hints there actually are huge spoilers. So yeah, I just like how in the original game they were able to give hints like this without actually spoiling much about the scenario. So anyway, hints. France's enemies are Britain and Burgundy. Anyway, that's obvious. Don't expect much assistance from the demoralized army of France, but be alert for any soldiers who might be inspired to join your army once they see Jeanne. So in other words, if you see a group of allied soldiers, try bringing Jeanne near them. They might just join your side. Protect your two knights, that will make sense in a moment. Don't worry about your economy, you actually have no way of getting economy in this mission. A lot of the first missions of every campaign start you without any form of economic gathering, just to get you right into the thick of the action immediately, and then they, get the resource gathering, they add it in later on. And make sure Jeanne's health doesn't get too low. That's pretty obvious.
Bonjour, Jeanne. My colleague and I will escort you to the Chateau of the Dauphin, or else we will die trying.
I am Jeanne de Metz, and I will protect you with my life.
So, we have our 2 knights here. We also have Jeanne herself, or Jeanne the Maid. She has 100 HP, and as a hero, her HP will regenerate over time if it gets low. Of course, she only has the attack stat barely higher than a militia, and at least some armor. You really shouldn't fight with her really that much. She's okay in a fight, but again, this is mostly an escort mission. We need to get Jeanne all the way over here. Yep, we're gonna have to cross a very large distance. We have Sir Bertrand and Sir de Metz. These are our 2 knights, and I kind of like to think of them as the Red Knight and Green Knight for those of you who played Fire Emblem. These two actually really existed in history, though. They actually did, historically, accompany Jeanne on her journey to Chinon. So, you might notice, by their attack stats, they are considerably more powerful in combat than she is. Now, their survival is not critical to the mission. You can have one or both of them die and it's fine. However, the hints did mention that you want to keep them alive because they know the lay of the land well. Basically, they'll be getting a lot of dialogue that will really help you in this mission, and if you let them die, you will miss out on that, and you might miss out on some crucial clues if you do that. Anyway, let's just get moving.
You are Jeanne of Arc. I have heard your claims and believe what you say. We will follow you to Chinon.
So, we have a group of swordsmen on our side. That's nice. These spearmen... Okay, will these spearmen join? A couple of spearmen guarding a tent. I don't think so. Right. There are a couple of archers over this side. So, if we move close to them... Crossbowmen more like, but anyway. If we move close to them, they don't really do much. But if we try to leave...
Wait, you might have need of a few archers on the road ahead.
Yes, we certainly will. So, our group is growing.
You must be wary on the road ahead. Our enemies, the British, are out in force, and their Burgundian allies are thick as rats. Discretion is the better part of valor.
Yes, historically, Jeanne and her companions were basically sneaking behind enemy lines here. This mission will be about avoiding pointless combat, because you really don't have enough of an army to take anything on. We have enough of a force to protect Jeanne, and speaking of protecting Jeanne, the box formation is actually quite useful in this scenario. This will ensure that all of your units guard Jeanne, which is very helpful. If we go this way, though...
I spotted a nest of Burgundians to the north. Best to go another way.
Right then, certainly better to go another way. Now, it is a little harder to get your troops through these woods if you're all in a box, and these seem to be more like in an X than a box. We have a couple of wolves here. Dire wolves, as a matter of fact. They basically just have more HP than regular wolves. Wolves still aren't that much of a threat, though. Wow, I can't believe he was missing so horribly. Just be a little careful. Jeanne will get into combat if you are grouping her with your other units. She can generally handle herself just fine, but you might just want to be careful there. Right then. Let's just move a little forward. Keep
Look
going.
out! A battle races ahead. Stand up! Let's keep these soldiers a crossfire.
Okay, pull back. Make sure our units don't go into this combat.
Another glorious loss for France. I hope you really can turn the tide of this war, Jeanne of Arc.
Yeah, that didn't end well. That's pretty much typical fare for the French army at this point in the 100 Years' War. They were basically losing every single battle, and I'm going to go back into line just so getting through these woods is easier. Yeah, there was the Battle of Agincourt quite a while back, and that was apparently a complete and total massacre. But something kind of funny about that battle, which is totally scripted by the way, at one point, I once had the 2 spearmen at the gate actually come over and join that battle, and they actually survived once. That was kind of interesting. But anyway, we'll just keep moving. And while we're moving, I guess I could just talk about the main thing that I want to mention as soon as possible. Joan of Arc, which is the name that's mentioned in a lot of this and that most people know. Nowadays, we're starting to realize and use different terms, but basically, that was a mistranslation. Apparently, Jeanne's name was actually Jeanne d'Arc, D-A-R-C, as her surname. It was just a perfectly ordinary surname, and someone misinterpreted that as d'Arc, D-apostrophe-A-R-C, which means of Arc, and the whole mistranslation arose. So, her actual name was Jeanne d'Arc, but anyway, even most things nowadays use d'Arc instead of Arc, because most people have acknowledged that that's wrong by now. But still, it's the name that most people know the legend by, so it's pretty much the one everyone uses, so yeah.
The bridge is out. The British must have destroyed it. We must find another way to Chinon.
Jeanne's force really did encounter several broken bridges on their way to Chinon in real-life history, so yeah. All of the campaigns are pretty much historically accurate for the most part. Well, for the most part. I'll explain when they aren't at certain points, but anyway. So if we go this way, we find some green soldiers. Now the hints did not warn us about these guys. I'll send a couple of my knights over to take out those archers.
Highwaymen preying on helpless travelers. What has become of our homeland?
Just kill him. And him. So we have highwaymen, basically. Did we lose anyone in that? I think we lost one swordsman and one archer. Okay, but at least we didn't lose anyone. Well, our archers have taken quite a beating though, so... You know what, I should go back into box every time there's a major battle, but anyway. So if we head this way, again, following the roads is very useful in all of the campaigns for the most part. Unfortunately, we have the purple flag of Burgundy.
A Burgundian encampment. We'll never get through that wall without siege equipment.
So we're turning back. Yep, we don't want another repeat of that whole William Wallace Scenario 6 wall issue where, yeah, that took forever. But anyway, let's follow the other road up. So, not only do we have the British and the Burgundians to worry about, we've also got to worry about a highwayman on our travels. Yep, this sure is a dangerous mission, but if we manage to... Oh, and wolves, don't forget the wolves. So we have 3 wolves, and these ones come straight for us. These are just regular wolves, though, only 25 HP, so they really should not be much of a threat. Seriously, if you lose any of your troops to those wolves, you have a problem. And we have more highwaymen! This time they have cavalry of their own, so we're going to want to isolate and take out that cavalry guy as soon as we can. And we lost an archer, actually 2 archers I think. But, not to spoil things, but we might be getting additional troops soon, so no need to worry that much. Don't need to attack that highwayman outpost, it really is not a threat. Let's just keep moving through the woods, and hopefully we'll find some kind of siege to take out that Burgundian encampment. The road that way leads back to the encampment, so instead let's go over this bridge. Jeanne and our 2 knights have full health, that is pretty much fine. And we have more wolves, and these ones are dire wolves. But, again, not much of a threat, really. Yeah, wolves don't pose really much of a threat, like I'm saying. Wow, your aim sucks, crossbowman, seriously! If you ever survive this battle, you're fired. Well, we haven't researched ballistics yet, so it's understandable that their aim sucks, but oh well. And look, we've got Yellow here. Yellow is the army of France, who are our allies, so let's just go up here and see if they've got anything for us. Some more soldiers.
Gather your belongings, men. We followed Joan of Arc. We will carry that battering ram along with us. It may yet be of use.
Okay, so we have additional swordsmen. In fact, just enough to fully garrison this ram, which is nice. Now, I should note that you couldn't actually garrison rams until the Conqueror's expansion, so strictly speaking, I'm kind of breaking this scenario when it comes to just... because originally this was an Age of Kings scenario. But, hey, if it's an option available to us, I'm going to use it. So, garrison this ram to increase its speed, and give it extra attack power. We also have a bunch of pikemen. Pikemen are the upgraded form of spearmen, and again, they're very effective against cavalry, so we'll want to take these with us to help combat enemy cavalry. Pikemen are also, well... they do have a bit more hit points than these swordsmen, so they're a little better on the defensive, but a little weaker to archers. Pikemen also tend to go up in the front of a formation when you move all of your units, so that helps against cavalry charges. So let's get going. Actually though, before we get going, I'll just send one of my units up this way, because there's something over here that you might want to know.
Mad. Across a bridge lies a Burgundian castle and many men. Turn back at once.
Yeah, you really don't want to go that way. I might, in an extras video later on, just show what's up there, but seriously, just hear me out, it's death. Believe me, death. Painful, horrible death. You do not want to go that way. Trust me, you really, really don't. And what are you guys doing here? Oh well. Now, we're about to go back and take out that Burgundian encampment. Now, the quickest way is this way. However, in a test run, I realized this way may not have been the most effective, so I'm going to actually see if I can come down here and see if that's a little better. Believe me, you'll understand what I mean once we actually get to that gate. There is another gate over here, but there actually are some Burgundian troops there. And I'm wondering if I attack this gate, if it will take them longer for them to reach us. And if that will give us even a slight advantage. You know, I do test run these scenarios before I do my commentary on them. Just a heads up, all my commentary in this game is actually live. I'm recording this over Fraps, which can actually record my voice and game audio at the same time. At least with the microphone setup that I've got. So, yes, all this is live, but I will, again, practice every scenario at least once before I actually record it, because otherwise, yeah, I don't want any nasty surprises off camera. It's been a while since I played some of these, and, well, some of these scenarios do have some nasty surprises if you're not careful. As much as you'd love to see my reactions to those, I'd much rather have things go smoothly. That's not to say there mightn't be any fail channel segments in this playthrough. There very well could be if things go very wrong in any of my runs. So, we're gonna go and break down this wall. So let's go ahead and send our battering ram in. Now I hope those Burgundian troops are occupied on the other side of this wall first, because if not, my plan is gonna fail spectacularly. Actually, wait a minute. Actually, the gate will give us a bigger... Gates have more HP than general wall segments do. Holy bad! Right, that was worse than I expected. Yes, you did see a nasty surprise on camera. There are cavalry through that gate. Yikes. That I was not expecting. You see, the archers are at the top gate, but fortunately, though, these archers have been lured through the gate, and now I can kill them. Excellent. Phew, So, oh, wow. Yeah, just when I was talking about not wanting any nasty surprises on camera, I did not realize there were cavalry guarding the lower gate, and cavalry are absolute death to rams. I am extremely lucky this ram survived that unscathed, because, well, not unscathed, but survived in general, because seriously. So, okay, learn from my mistake, definitely attack this gate, not the southern gate. Because the southern gate has cavalry, and you definitely don't want to deal with them with your ram. Phew, that was close. Oh, that was a little too close for comfort there. Right then, I guess you did see a nasty surprise on camera. So anyway, barring down this wall, while we do this, I guess I can talk a little bit about Burgundy. Burgundy is technically part of France. However, in earlier years, the French king started to give them more and more land. They got so much land, they started to let it go to their head and consider themselves a separate country in their own right. One of the lands that they were given just happened to do a lot of trade with England, and so when the British invaded, they were pretty much on the pro-England side. And that led the rest of France to brand them as dirty, rotten traitors. So, yeah. Now, I mentioned that their leader basically... Who's firing? Okay, there are still archers there. Okay. I don't want you to die, actually, because I have to let you survive so I can fire you. Haha!
You French don't know when to give up!
I'm sorry, but the voice acting on that line is so bad, it's hilarious. I'm starting to wonder whether it's deliberately terrible, because seriously, like, it's... You're not really meant to... You're meant to find these guys laughably pathetic anyway, so it still works, but it's always hilarious, that line. Whoa, Joan, you're getting a little too far behind there. Form up, everyone. Now, I find that barracks tends to not create any new units, so we don't need to worry about destroying that. But our Ram can go on and do that, just to give him something to occupy himself with. It's really not that important, seeing as well, it doesn't really create any new units, so you don't really need to worry about destroying it, but anyway. Oh, great, more wolves. Oh, they seem to have killed a French, I'm guessing, villager by that corpse. Wow, this archer is terrible, but he's the best I got. He's the only survivor of the archers, so I guess we're stuck with him then. Other wolf, more wolves. Kill the wolf, quickly, he's attacking one of our knights. And he regenerated faster than the wolf could damage him. Okay, great. Yes, the knights are counted as heroes too, so they regenerate HP, so that is pretty cool. Now, heroes are also, thankfully, immune to conversion. Kind of funny to fail this scenario by Joan suddenly defecting sides, but apparently that was not true in Age of Kings. It was only in the Conquerors they made heroes immune to conversion.
There are Burgundian soldiers everywhere. Hurry west to the river where we can make
I'll stop myself here because, holy crap, did we actually... Oh, great, they are coming for us. Quick, onto the ships, You need to make sure that at the very least, Jeanne and your two knights get on... Did they totally miss us? No, get on the ship, get on board. Everyone, on board the ships. On the ships, get on. You want to make sure that Jeanne and the two knights are at least on board the ships. Everyone else, you can safely leave behind. Yeah, sorry guys, go and be a distraction there. So, Jeanne is on, and our two knights are on. As long as all of them are on board your ships, generally fine. Now, make sure you know which ship Jeanne is in. It's in that one. Okay, make sure you know that, because if the ship sinks with her on it, it counts as her dying, so you will fail instantly. And did these ships just shuffle? Yes, they shuffled. Feels like a shell game here, but they shuffled again. Right then. Yes, Jeanne is on the immediate left ship, I think. Now, you've got to be careful while you're traversing these waters, because eventually... Wait for it. Come on, where is it? Just keep heading south down the river. That's really your only option. The rest of the... There it is! There's a Burgundian ship here. And it's hitting the one that has Jeanne on it, so we've got to be careful. But after we outrun the Burgundian ship, we've pretty much got a small French camp here with a bunch of soldiers. What we want to do is, now we've reached the shallows, we can unload our transports. And these transports are not going to serve any purpose here, but let's not move them all the way back up the river, because otherwise they'll lure the ship down to us. Ships can attack land units, so you'll need to watch out for that. But if we move our quite considerably battered army up here...
You mean to lead the French army? Such confidence I have not seen since this war began. Very well. You have 6 more soldiers, Jeanne the maid.
And they couldn't come at a better time. We have reinforcements. That is nice to know. And if we send one of our knights over here, you'll find that this area actually connects to the same bridge that was damaged before. So we would have saved a lot of time if this was intact, but sadly it wasn't. How's the Ram doing? Oh, he's doing fine. Unfortunately, all of our distraction soldiers that I left behind have died, but seriously, you want to make sure that Jeanne and your knights get on board the transports as soon as possible. So, We have archers, but we also have 2 scorpions. Scorpions are anti-infantry siege weapons that fire bolts that do damage to all units in their path. Very powerful, and unlike mangonels, they don't have a risk of harming your own units, so quite useful that. Now, we're gonna need these, because very soon, just wait for it. More highwaymen! Yeah, you'll notice the scorpions are firing like bolts. Okay, this scout cavalry needs to die before he reaches our siege weapons! Yeah, you really don't want scout, even scout cavalry pose a considerable threat to siege weapons. Highwaymen have been defeated, but did we seriously just lose one of our... That was sloppy playing right there. In my practice run, I did not lose any of the scorpions, and you want to keep them alive because, not just highwaymen... Wait. Did they all just die? Well, that was interesting. Normally the Burgundians actually say, let me just do my best imitation of the terrible Burgundian voice acting. Here's they come! Fire! Basically something like that. And what's funny is, that doesn't make sense in standard difficulty, because they only have melee units. In hard mode, though, they have a mangonel, and that could spell serious death for your army, especially Jeanne, if you let it get going, so you'll want to take out that mangonel as soon as possible on hard mode. But, now that we've got through that, and the highwaymen have apparently been completely wiped out, the orange houses mean Chinon. We're here, at last. See, that wasn't so bad. We've got a couple of upgraded towers here.
Chinon, we have made it.
I share your sentiments exactly. We have made it. See, that wasn't so bad. So, yes, orange is Chinon, and they're really not doing that much. And something weird I find here, this is a unupgraded gate inside of an upgraded wall. That's kind of weird looking. Yeah. Oh wait, there's an unupgraded wall there, because yeah, these are fortified walls, and that's just... What's that unupgraded wall segment doing there? Whoever made this map has some explaining to do about that, seriously. Also, you know what's nice? We have a monk here who'll be nice enough to heal us. It's totally irrelevant, seeing as we've already basically won this scenario, but it's nice to know that any soldiers who are injured can get healing here. While my units are being healed, kind of pointlessly, but oh well, I guess I can talk about who we're about to visit. Dauphin is kind of the French equivalent of like prince or something. Basically, this guy was the only heir to the French throne. He is the son of the previous king, who came to be known as Charles the Mad. The Dauphin is also named Charles. What is it with medieval kings constantly naming themselves after each other? But yes, now, Charles is kind of interesting, because they say he was too cowardly to ascend the throne, and that is pretty much true. The guy is basically a total wimp and a coward, but he's the only French prince they've got, so might as well a French king than an English king. Basically, that was the French people's basically their reasoning behind wanting him to be crowned. Because, yep, he's, again, total wimp, total coward, but he's better than an English king. And speaking of an English king, this might be mentioned later on, but the current English king who was next in line for the throne of France if the Dauphin did not take up the crown, he was 2 years old at the time. So yeah, that's the reason why they wanted to rush and get Charles crowned as soon as they could. Because, hey, random French militia. Because the English king was technically too young to be officially crowned, and that meant the French actually had a chance. If they could get the Dauphin crowned first, again, they might be in with a chance in this war.
The Chateau of the Dauphin.
Now, some people also suspect that Charles may have been involved in the plot to assassinate the previous Duke of Burgundy, and that may have been the reason why he's in hiding at the moment. Now, given that he's a total wimp, chances are he definitely was not responsible for the actual plan or the actual assassination. But sources do say that he was there on the night that the previous Duke of Burgundy was killed. So he did have a lot of enemies, and he was right to be a little paranoid. Again, there's a difference between being paranoid and being a total cowardly whip. Believe me, that'll come back to bite France later on, but for the time being...
The Dauphin will see you now.
As you can see, our objectives are all completed. The Burgundians were represented by Franks, so that makes sense.
As Jeanne's footsteps echoed down the marbled hall of the chateau, the fat and whispering dukes did not but stare. The Dauphin himself seemed afraid as she kissed his feet. "My gentle Dauphin," she demanded, "why does England claim what is ours? Why are you not crowned King of France, as is your right?" The courtiers began to murmur. The chamberlain whispered lies into the Dauphin's ear, but the Dauphin pushed the chamberlain away and rose to meet Jeanne's gaze. "She stands only to the shoulder of the shortest man, but all of us must look up to speak to her. I know not what silent conversation passed between the Dauphin and his would-be savior, but it was obvious that His Majesty was in the same thrall as we."
And we get awesome victory music. And why is Burgundy tied for us with MVP? I don't know why. For some reason, they got MVP as well, but anyway. And for some reason, the army of France got the best total score. Well, of course, we got the most units killed and buildings destroyed. Oh, of course, army of France had the largest army, naturally. No economy at all. Oh right, they had farms, that's why they were collecting food. I still love this victory music. We explored 52% of the map. That's actually quite a big achievement in a limited and linear scenario like this one. The British had somehow researched the most technologies? Okay. Society, okay, yeah, they had one castle. Chinon has one castle. Army of France had a whopping 7 When did I have 3 villages? That's weird. I don't know when that happened. Oh, unless heroes are counted as villages, because that would be the only time it makes sense. And timeline. Apparently there was a big battle then, and a big battle event for the Highwaymen then, and a couple of more big battles for me. But anyway, and this took us 37 minutes. Okay, that's actually quite short by scenario standards. So, anyway, one final thing I'd like to mention about a possible historical fact about this scenario before we close off. Legend has it, and we can't really tell if this is true or not, but legend has it that when Jeanne first went to Chinon to meet the Dauphin, either he chickened out or he decided to test her. He had one of the other nobles basically sit in his throne, and he himself hid among the crowd. Basically, Jeanne wasn't fooled at all. She didn't go to the one on the throne, she went straight to the Dauphin who was in the crowd, and surprisingly started speaking to him. Again, we don't know if this is just a legend designed to make the story sound, more interesting, or whether this really happened, but it is interesting. However, if this did happen, it would later sort of come back to bite her. We'll find out why later on, but basically, Jeanne used a certain metaphor when explaining why it was so obvious who was the Dauphin. The way she worded it did not exactly help her case when... Well, I guess we'll find that out later. For now, let's go back to the scenario menu. And we have unlocked the second mission here, the Maid of Orleans. And that is where we'll see you next time. And now it's time for Ye Olde Fact of the Day. The Scorpion is a siege weapon available in the Castle Age, and it's one of the 3 main families of siege weapons, those 3 being the Mangonel line, the Scorpion line, and the Ram line. But unlike the other two, Scorpions only get one upgrade, so that's kind of interesting. But that doesn't mean that they're not as useful. Scorpions, like I've said before, are basically ballistas. They're an anti-infantry siege weapon, and they often suffer a lot of competition from the other anti-infantry, well, anti-anything not buildings really, siege weapon, the mangonel. Scorpions and mangonels both have their pros and cons, and so today I'm going to talk about the Scorpion. Now, the main advantage Scorpions have as far as comparison with the mangonel goes is, like I've said many times before, Scorpions do not harm your own units. Mangonels can very easily cause severe damage to your own troops if you don't micromanage them properly, especially in the original Age of Kings where, again, their automated unit AI was terrible. It was almost like it was trying to kill your own troops. They improved it vastly in the Conquerors, but I'll talk about that more when we get onto there. Scorpions, however, they don't have as much power as a mangonel. However, they fire their bolts straight forward. Everything the bolt passes through takes damage. Every enemy, I'll say. They, again, don't harm your own soldiers or your allies. Only enemies. So basically, Scorpions do damage to everything in a straight line in front of them. So they're quite powerful against massed formations, but they don't quite do as big of a spread as mangonels do. They mostly just, again, they do damage in a line. So against deep formations of enemies, like a line formation, let's say, Scorpions do quite a lot of damage. And again, I keep stressing this, but it is a very huge advantage is the fact they don't harm your own troops when firing, so you can use them without worrying about the risk of that at all. The other pro that Scorpions have going for them is they're a lot cheaper than mangonels, and because they don't upgrade as far, that might be a blessing in disguise. You see, despite the fact that mangonels do have 3 upgrades, the final upgrade to mangonels is ludicrously expensive. Like, it costs in the thousands of both food and gold. It's pretty insane, basically. Scorpions don't cost nearly... Well, they do cost quite a bit to upgrade to heavy Scorpions, but only having one upgrade stage, they don't quite run you as much resources to upgrade them all the way, so that's another advantage Scorpions have. They're a bit of a cheaper option. Of course, like all siege weapons, Scorpions are incredibly vulnerable to cavalry, so keep them pretty far away from cavalry and the like. They've got very good pierce armor, but still not as ridiculous as battering rams do, so they're not, like totally immune to arrows. They still take quite a bit of damage, and mass archer fire, or in particular the Mongolian unique unit, which we'll be seeing later, can really do a number on them, so you might want to watch out for that too. Scorpions should be kept behind your lines, and because they don't run the risk of damaging your own troops, they're the perfect unit for the job. They can fire from behind the safety of their own troops without worrying about causing damage to them, and they'll get protection into the bargain. To sum up, Scorpions are the anti-infantry siege option for those who are worried about harming their own troops. Keep them protected, and they'll serve you well. Of course, I stupidly didn't keep one of mine protected in this... Can't believe that. I let it survived in the test run. But anyway, enough about my failings.